In this video, we're going to learn about Flask templating features as well as some HTML. So in this video, we're going to review some CS50 IDE. We're also going to review Flask, and we're going to introduce HTML, and I'll also introduce Activity 4, Part A and B. All right, so just quickly to review the CS50 IDE. First off, it's located at ide.cs50.io. Sign in with your GitHub credentials. To create a new file, click on the circle green button and click on New File. And this is where you'll write your Python code. Today, we'll also be writing some HTML code. The red circle right next to the file name means that you haven't saved your file yet. Make sure you save your file before you try to Flask run. To save your file, you can either do it by the menu, or you could also do Control S on a PC or Chromebook, or Command S on a Mac. On the right hand side is where I like to run programs in the terminal. So you can click on the circle button and click on New Terminal. And so, for example, if you were just running a Python file, you would just type something like python hello.py. Just to note, the $sign just means that it indicates it's the command line, and the command that you issue is going to be to the right of the $sign. So again, if you're going to run a Python file, it would be Python file name, but we're working with Flask. So to run Flask, you type in the command flask run. All right, just to note also, to download a file, you click on the file, and fourth option down will be download. And happy coding. All right, so quick review of Flask again. We're going to get into a little more detail about Flask. Flask is a micro framework that lets you create websites. I put a link to the official website over there if you want to read more documentation about it. Python's also written in Flask, by the way. Flask uses the MVC, or Model View Controller model. And a minimal Flask application will look something like this. Now, the default file name for Flask application is application.py. And again, to run your Flask application, just type in flask run in the terminal. And then to open your website, click on the link that is generated. All right, so now for some new materials, I'm going to introduce HTML. So first off, what does HTML stand for? HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language. And what does HTML do? Well, HTML defines properties and behaviors of a web page and implements a markup-based pattern to it. All right, so HTML also allows a web designer to decide how a page is laid out. So a really big debate is whether or not HTML is a programming language. And if you look on the internet, if you just to Google, for instance, is HTML a programming language, you get different responses. But most of the responses you would see, are that technically HTML is a programming language. However, some people kind of disagree with that because HTML is a markup language. So it is a language, but it doesn't have a lot of the features of a programming language. So again, if you were to look on the internet, look around for different answers, you'd get, I would say most of them would say no, HTML is not a programming language, because again, it's a markup language, so you're just kind of marking things up. HTML does not include things like if or loops or things like that, but it does allow a web designer to decide how a web page is laid out. All right, so some basic HTML. I've just kind of made a slide about it. If you wanted to create a small HTML file that said hello world, it would look something like this. We're going to use a variation of this today with our Flask web page. So the first line clarifies that the document is an HTML document, specifically an HTML5 document. And after that, HTML code, you'll notice, is organized as a series of nested elements. So each element begins and ends with a tag that indicates what type of tag the element is. Anything between those tags are the contents of the element. So in our example, the outermost element is the HTML element, and you kind of start off with it and then you end up with it, and everything in between those tags is part of the HTML element. So that's just kind of HTML nomenclature, or how we kind of talk about HTML. In general, opening tags will take the form of the tag name, and the closing tags will take the form of / tag name, both of which are in between brackets, or actually those aren't brackets, those are less than and greater than tags. Inside of our HTML element are two other elements, a head and a body. The head element contains information about the web page that isn't in the body of the web page itself. So for instance, the head element here contains the title element, which sets the title of the web page to Hello World. Inside the body of the element, which defines what's actually in the main content area of the web page, is just the word hello. So just kind of think to yourself as you're writing your own HTML, or as you inspect it and you see it, you can think of the structure of an HTML document as a tree-like hierarchy. The HTML element is at the root of the tree, it's like at the beginning, and after that, tags kind of branch off. So, for example, you'll have the head and body tags. Head is where that title is, body is where the web page content will be. And again, some of the common tags that you'll see in just about every single web page are things like HTML, head, title, and body. Alright, some other common HTML tags are the H1 through H6, and that just specifies how big your heading tag can be. Some other HTML common tags are, if you want a new paragraph, it would be a P tag. Break, which kind of just skips a line, is the BR tag, and a bullet is LI. Now, HTML elements can also have attributes which provide additional information about them. So for example, the image tag, which we'll use a bit today, when you embed some images from Wikicommons, you would say something like, if you had a cat picture, you would have a tag like image_src equal cat.jpg, which would place the image cat.jpg on the web page. Now, to create links to other web pages in HTML, you would use the A tag, and the A tag takes the attribute of href, which specifies what web page the link should go to. So for example, if you had HTML like ahref equal https www.google.com, that would create a label named Google, which when clicked would take the user to www.google.com. Alright, so that brings us to activity 4, part A. And so what I'd like you to do is, first off, create a new directory called activity 4, and in the terminal type the command make directory activity 4. So I'm just going to go over to my CS50 ID over here, and let's go ahead and type that command here. So again, make directory activity 4, like that. And then we will change directory to activity 4. So we'll go cd activity 4. Okay, and that means that we're in the activity 4 directory. And again, if all goes well, you should see something that kind of looks like that, as you saw on my screen. To create a new directory called templates, which is what we're going to use today with Flask, you would issue the command make directory templates. So let's go back to our CS50 ID and let's use that mkdir command again. So mkdir templates. And again, we're going to use Flask's templating feature today. Now, next up, I want you to create a file named index.html. So I put the starter code here for you to help you get started at this link here. So it's on our advancedpython.net website. So up here, you'll notice the code here. To copy it, on the upper right-hand corner over here, click on Copy. And then inside of your CS50 IDE, go ahead and paste that code in. And after you've pasted that code in, go ahead and click on File, Save As. Go into, actually before you do that, for the file name, let's specify the file name first. So we have file name index.html. Then go down to Activity 4, and then go into Templates, and then go ahead and save it. All right. After that, we want to create a file named application.py. Again, I've given you some starter code there. So again, just click on the link there, which is actually the same link a little bit further down on the page. Click on Copy, and then go back to your CS50 IDE, click on the circle plus, click on New File, and then paste that code in there as well. So again, I've given you some starter code here. You'll notice some subtle differences, which I'll point out once I save the file. So go ahead and click on File, and then Save As, and we'll call this again our default name, which is application.py. Go into Activity 4, tap on Activity 4, and then click on Save. Now, I'll point out some small differences between the application.py file that I've given you previously. I added the render template over here on the first line, as well as I added return render template index.html. So in other words, what's going to happen here is that rather than returning what we've returned before, we've returned variables, we've returned strings, we've returned sentences. Today we're going to work with our index.html file, and that's what's going to be returned to our web page. So over at the terminal, go ahead and type in Flask run. Again, if all goes well, you'll get this URL over here. Click on it, click on open, and you'll see a message that says welcome to Activity 4, which means you're in really good shape. All right, so now in this activity, you'll start building your own website. So go ahead and think about how you would create a web page about yourself, your interests, etc. And I'll show you how to customize that. So first off, I've showed you some basic tags there. Add text of any size to your web page and write any text that you want. Add at least 3 images to your web page. One source of images could be Wikicommons. So I'm going to click on this link here, and that brings us to Wikicommons. So Wikicommons, all of the images here you can embed into your web page very easily. So in this example here, I'm just going to take the picture of the day, which happens to be this picture here. I'm going to click on it, and this is actually a really great picture. It's very high quality. And the way I'm going to embed it, first off, I'm going to take myself out of the picture for a second. I'm going to click on More Details, and then I'm going to click on Use this file on the web here. And you'll notice over here it says Embed this file. So when you click on Embed this file, you'll notice all of it's highlighted over here. Go ahead and Control-C that or copy that just to make sure. Then go into your CS50 IDE, and we'll go into our index.html file, and in the body tag, which is where you put where you would put your HTML content that shows up on the web page, I'm going to go ahead and paste that Notice it's like a really big string of text here. Don't worry about all the little things about it. It's generating it for us automatically. Notice our red lights here. So go ahead and save it. And now let's go ahead and look at our webpage and see what it looks like after we've embedded that Wikicommons picture of the day. Oops, let me save this again. And I'm going to refresh our page here. And strangely, nothing happens. Hold on a second. Let me refresh that. Let's do Flask run again. I did Flask run again. So apparently you have to restart Flask when you have when you use an index.html file. So just remember that, restart Flask. And you'll notice that that picture is embedded onto our website. All right, so I also want to note here that if you wanted it a different size, so let's say we wanted a smaller version of it, I'm going to go ahead and select 256 this time. And I'm going to recopy that code here. And then I'm going to go back to our index.html file. I'm going to go ahead and delete that line. And I'm going to put it back again. Okay, and I'm going to save it. And on the CS50 IDE, I'm going to do Control-C to exit out of Flask run. I'm going to run it again. And you'll notice that the picture is going to be rendered a little bit smaller because we selected a smaller pixel size for the image. All right, so again, that's one way you can embed images. Go ahead and find some images that you like on Wikicommons to embed pictures onto your website. Later on, I'll show you how to, in a future video, I'll show you how to embed your own pictures onto your website, which I'm sure will be a lot of fun. So some things I want to note: whatever you do, don't embed or upload images from the internet willy-nilly. You do need permission, and copyright infringement's a pretty serious thing. Disney, for example, is very strict with their trademarks and copyrights. You don't want to mess with Disney. You do not want to embed any kind of Disney content on your webpage without their permission. And if you were to try to get a license for it, you would have to pay a licensing fee in order to do so. All right, so part B of the activity, I'll just go over some more content that you can add to your webpage. So some fun things that you can do to embed content are that other websites actually have features which allow you to embed content on your website. So for example, YouTube allows you to embed content. I gave an example of a music video by the Chainsmokers and Illenium. And so if you were to click on that link over there and go to that video, I'm going to bring it up on my side over here. Oops, that's playing an ad. So I'm going to let the ad run here. I have to wait 12 seconds for it to load here. Next time I'll queue it up. All right, so our video's here now. I didn't want to show the ad in our video. You want to go ahead and click on share over here and then embed. And you'll notice the embed video code is right here. Go ahead and copy that. Go ahead back into your CS50 IDE, and I'm just going to add some tags here just to add some space. So I add my p tag here around that picture that we added, and I'll add another p tag here, and this is where I'm going to now embed our video. Oops, let me go back here. I'm going to embed our Chainsmokers video here. I'm going to paste it, and I'm going to save it. Again, I'm going to rerun Flask here. And when I reload our page, Notice pictures up here, and now we have our video embedded into our website. So again, notice you can also customize how big it can appear here by kind of like changing the width and the height. So feel free to kind of like play with that. So other places that other websites where you can embed content, another thing that I'd like you to do is to use Google Forms. So just go over to forms.google.com. So forms.google.com, we'll click on a blank one, which kind of looks like this. And let's say I want to create like a contact me form. And who am I? I'm just making some stuff up here and give a short answer. And we'll click on send. Actually, we'll name it up here. We'll name it up. We'll give it a default name. I named it contact me. And we'll click on send here. Click on this icon here. It says embed HTML. Copy that. Bring that into your index.html file. So we'll have our p tag again. We'll save it once again. We're going to rerun Flask. And when we refresh our page here, I'm going to bring that font size down. Notice now our embedded form is now within our website. So lots of ways for you to customize and add content to your website. So again, create a Google form for feedback on your website and embed it in there. All right, so hope you enjoyed that, and I'll catch you on the Google Meet.